Well, hello, everybody. I am going to talk to you today about the passing of Pope Francis early this morning in Rome. And I woke up in the night because I've got this throat thing going on, and my throat was like, eh. And there was the news popped up as we woke, and I just knew I had to look at the astrology of it, even though I do not usually look at the astrology of a passing, and I'm not going to say any aspects caused him to pass, but the astrology of his passing, because I have a lifelong interest in religion in general and the history of religion and this time that we are in of a big shift in consciousness. And I believe that the astrology speaks to all of that in so many ways. So the passing of the news of his passing just sent this current through my soul, and I was like, I've got to look at the charts, and I got chills. So I'm going to share the charts with you, and this is like a cosmic threshold, in my opinion. And I've also been aware of some prophecies that have been lurking around in various places. So I'll speak to them briefly as well, and just open up some possibilities of what this might bring in this major time um, of change that we are going through. So I'm going to share the chart first of all, and I'm not going to share it all the time, but they did report the time of his death, and he died in Rome, and so that was 7:35 a.m. local time. He was born on December the 17th, 1936, and it's a double A rated time. So even though it says 9 p.m., Rodden rating on Astro Databank says that this is his birth time, and he was born in Buenos Aires, Argentina. And the guy was a Jesuit. He was definitely kind of a more humble soul than many previous popes, and he was called the People's Pope and all things like that. So this is not an opinion about him, but I do want to point out some things as we go. So first, let me look at his natal chart. He is a Sagittarius, like me, and he was born with his Sagittarius sun conjunct the North Node in his sixth house of service, which feels so like a Jesuit to my mind, because Jesuits are very much service minded. And so, but he was born with Chiron, the Christ consciousness, in many ways, conjunct his south node in the 12th house. So he was kind of born channeling this energy, right? Of mystical truth down. He was very connected with the mystical realms, I think, in many ways, more than perhaps we could see. No, that doesn't mean that he was perfect in every way. There's lots to say. He was also born with a 0 degree midheaven, and I see Taurus midheaven, Scorpio I see, which is quite relevant because this is fixed signs. He kind of brought the church very much down to earth in many ways, but again, not perfect. He was born with an Aquarius moon and the Aquarius Venus, which is, very much of the people's pope. There you go. And he was Cancer rising, so very caring, very nurturing. And he was always seen like really gently kissing babies and all that kind of energy of him. Excuse me. So here's to what we're going to talk about. So let me share the chart first of all of his passing. So at the moment he died, the time reported, Saturn was in literally 1 minute of a karmic conjunction with the North Node in Pisces, which is one of the most karmic and spiritually loaded transits of the decade. So I think this isn't just a papal passing, this is a cosmic threshold. This is a moment where prophecy, astrology, and power, and all all converge. But I'm going to look at what's unfolding when we move through how it's affecting his chart as well, or was. Okay, so excuse me. So Chiron and Eris were conjunct, and this is the midpoint of the two of them. And I think this is important when we look at his chart. We also notice that Venus is now still moving slow, but moving towards the conjunction with Saturn, and Venus is exalted in Pisces. And remember, we've just come out of this retrograde, right? And so really the North Node, Saturn and Venus are all together. And you'll see how this is affecting his chart. But this is all in aspect to Uranus as well. These are in a sort supportive sextile to each other. Venus has literally just had her third sextile to it. The ascendant for the time of his death, in the location of his death, was 26 degrees of Taurus, which is almost exactly sextile that karmic Saturn Neptune North Node conjunction. Sorry, I have to do this today, and my throat feels like it's swallowed razor blades a bit. Anyway, I'm going to add the Galactic Center in as well. So the Galactic Center was in the 8th house of death in many ways at the time. And you know, the Galactic Center is is like a cosmic defrag. I've talked about this many times. This was in a square to this Saturn North Node Venus conjunction at the time of his passing. You know, not quite by exactly, but the Galactic Center is huge. And so, you know, this is a pivotal moment. I've talked about it many times, especially in the Venus retrograde class I ran, in terms of the collective shift that we're going through, this collective expansion of consciousness. Well, here's how it shows up in his chart. Okay. So let me get his chart right there. So, so we have Saturn, the planet of structure, endings, and legacy, aligning with the North Node in Pisces, our collective karmic direction. And Pisces speaks of sacrifice, spirituality, compassion, and illusion. So this transit in itself is a spiritual reckoning, and it landed exactly in Pope Francis's 9th house, which is the house of religion, belief systems, and moral authority. And not just that, Venus, also in Pisces, here, was just one arc minute away from an exact square to his Sagittarius sun. And he was born with the Sagittarius sun conjunct the Galactic Center. He was a man for his time to sort of start ushering in this new consciousness that we're in. Okay. And so that's a piercing moment of soul level reevaluation for us all, really. And so his natal nodes at 24 degrees, 16 minutes, Gemini Sagittarius. And this Saturn node Venus alignment squaring his nodes almost exactly, a pivot point, a turning point. And by the way, these are all in the cadent houses in his chart, which are endings and beginnings, or completion and new starts in many ways. So his life and his death echo the old story of faith and authority meeting the new demand for spiritual truth. So layer this with a fixed grand cross in the sky at the time. So we have the sun at 1 degree of Taurus, almost exactly on his midheaven, as I called it. So this is definitely impacting this major turning point as well. We also have that midpoint of Chiron and Eris, the wounded healer, or the Christ consciousness, if you like, conjunct the goddess of discord. But look at this, their midpoint was 2 minutes from aspecting his nodes as well. Wow, in that ninth house again. Oh, goodness me. But this fixed cross, okay, so it's opposing Haumea. So we have the Sun in Taurus, Haumea in Scorpio. We also have Mars in Leo square to the Sun. And then we have this Moon Pluto conjunction, like the mothers and the grandmothers, if you like, in many ways, in the sign of Aquarius, which is a cross of locked power, a cosmic standoff between preservation, creation, destruction, and will. And this configuration activated that MCIC axis and his first and seventh houses, so his very public and private life. So this is not subtle. This is a divine orchestration. And he died on Easter, on Easter Monday morning. Whoa, this is kind of like whoa. So I'm going to stop the share for a second. Was there anything else? I did also want to mention that we had the eclipse on March the 14th. And we know this illness, he got pneumonia and things, and this kind of led to his passing at this time. And the eclipse was exactly at 23 degrees of Virgo Pisces. So let me put that one up. You can see it. So that was right on the cusp of his third and ninth house. Faith, belief, ideas, information, how we learn about faith and belief and religion and the details of it. There's going to be a lot emerge. By the way, we already know there's a lot hidden under the Vatican about that has been suppressed by the church. What if Haumea on the root of his chart is going to start revealing this? Anyway, you can read the immortality key for that rather than me try to fit everything into the one video. I also do want to mention that the next new moon, so of course now we'll follow a period of mourning, and then he will be buried, and then we're going to have a new pope elected too. So the let me take that midpoint out now. Okay, so the new moon coming up on the 27th, just days away, is at 7 degrees of Taurus on his Uranus, and the new moon is almost exactly square his Venus. And I'm just like, oh my God, we had Pope Joan come up again, who was believed to be the only female pope, but most people say that's just a myth. But who knows? This is going to shake things up. This is going to shake things up. Will the next pope bring in, female priests? Will the whole structure of the church change? Who knows? But this is a massive turning point. Also, Eris is on his Nessus, which kind of suggests that, even though he was a reformer and a good man, that some more things are going to be revealed from what comes. Okay, so I want to talk about some prophecies as well. Oh my God. So Nostradamus wrote, through the death of a very old pontiff, a Roman of good age will be elected. Of him it will be said that he weakens his seat, but long will he sit and in mordant activity. So some say this referred to Francis already, but with his death, we may now see a weaker, longer, but what's weaker? Weaker in whose eyes, right? Longer lasting papacy, or even a quiet unraveling of the institution itself. Mordant, by the way, means having or showing a sharp or critical biting quality. Okay. Then we had Alice Bailey, who was a channeler of a being And she wrote in her esoteric prophecy that the Master Jesus will take a physical vehicle and with certain of his chelas effect a re-spiritualization of the Catholic churches around the year 1980. Now, a couple of things applied, kind of really, chelas, that's a slang for beer, incidentally, but there must be something else to it as well. But anyway, 1980. So that timeline is long past, but maybe the form it took wasn't one man. Maybe it was a wave, a return of Christ consciousness, not to a throne, but to the people. It does occur to me, though, that then 1980 was the first great conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter in an air sign. And that one, it was in Libra. And then in 2020, we had the great mutation, a great conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter at 0 Aquarius. That has launched 200 years of great conjunctions in air signs, which is new ideas, a lot of change. Anyway, so, but maybe all of this is just a wave, a return of Christ consciousness to the people, as I said. By the way, Cella is also a follower or student of the Guru. So, Francis, then there was the prophecy of the popes, right? Found in 1590. That was 112 cryptic mottos predicting each pope and ending with this. In the final persecution of the Holy Roman Church, there will reign Peter the Roman, who will feed his flock amid many tribulations, after which the seven-hilled city will be destroyed, and the dreadful judge will judge the people. The end. Now, Rome is the seven-hilled city, and some say that Pope Francis is the last pope, and the next is Peter the Roman. But whether literal or symbolic, the sense of this final chapter with all of these astrology aspects is really palpable. So, just to go back over some of the astrology, Francis was born with the moon in Aquarius, a sign of collective wisdom. He died with the moon conjunct Pluto in Aquarius and square that natal Uranus in Taurus, and we have that new moon coming up as well to that. His final breath came with the energy of revolution, awakening, and the shattering of spiritual stasis. So even Eris, the goddess of discord, was conjunct his natal Nessus. The stories of abuse, secrecy, and silencing may not go quietly. This is truth rising. So yes, the Pope has died, but what's been born? Maybe the church as we knew it ends. The throne cracks, the robes fall away, and what remains is what we've always had, a sacred thread in the hands of the people, the mystics, the midwives of truth. But that's you. So maybe this isn't the end of prophecy. It's a call to remember that you are the fulfillment of it. As the Pope exits the world stage, the universe reversed arrives. Not as an ending, but as a disruption of closure. This isn't a neat full stop. This is a portal held ajar. Completion withheld, ascension paused. It says the cycle was never whole. The old world didn't finish its dance. The sacred truth was never fully crowned. And maybe that's the point. Maybe the universe reversed is asking, what part of wholeness was denied in the church's legacy? What wisdom was suppressed? What still needs to be seen, named, mourned, reclaimed? The Pope's death wasn't a finale. It was a rupture in the myth of completion. And through that rupture, a real sacred may now re-enter. And just think of this moment in history we're in at the turning of the ages as well. The age we are leaving was really the age of the church, of Christianity, of those hierarchical structures. So, with clarity, courage, and soul deep reverence, may you rest in peace, Francis. He was a good man, in my opinion, and mostly. And this is what we came for. Much love.